Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
The Outback. I feel something out here you don't feel anywhere else. It's more than a setting. It's a character in our shared story.
Well, I think he's like the king, like the best.
Lee Kernaghan.
Lee Kernaghan.
From these little country towns that I draw most of the inspiration for the songs that I record.
But when you take a place, a person, time, a story, and wrap it up in words and music, well, that's magic.
Now he's gone, I was flying with the king, riding on the wind. A small town boy from Norway, my head up in the clouds.
Country music has a way of blurring the lines. When the tunes feel right, life and song become one. It's about my mates, my town, my story.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 447. Released in July 28 in Australian cinemas is Lee Kernaghan, Boy from the Bush, a concert documentary that delves into the career and life of Australian country music superstar Lee Kernaghan, as told through his songs, which for 30 years have played soundtrack to the lives of those who live in country Australia. Joining me now is the director of Lee Kernaghan, Boy from the Bush, and one of Australia's hardest working filmmakers, Mr. Kriv Stenders. Kriv, I thank you so very much for your time today.
Thanks, Lee.
So it's really interesting. So documentaries are something that you have done before, all the way back to, your stuff with the Go-Betweens and recently with the Slim Dusty documentary as well. What's interesting about this documentary is that instead of going for that straight ahead kind of documentary format, you opted to kind of weave in the kind of like concept kind of film in there as well. What was it about, do you think, about Lee's songs in particular that really influenced this approach to storytelling in this documentary as opposed to just doing the same documentary format that maybe you have tackled previously?
Well, Matt, the thing about Lee's music, when I was first approached to think of an idea or even think about making a documentary about Lee Kernaghan by my producers, Chris Brown and Diana Delane, who I did Slim and I with, they sort of said, look, that Lee's management are interested in talking to you about a documentary. And I had just done Slim and I, so I'd just done that sort of big overview kind of life biopic kind of approach.
Yeah.
And I realized, even though I didn't know Lee's music intimately, I knew enough about it to know that, okay, he's got some iconic songs that sing about very, very specific, very iconic elements of the Australian rural experience. And I felt my instinct was to make a performance-based film, a film about the songs, and more primarily a film about the stories behind the songs. And very quickly, I kind of came up with the approach of thinking, well, it'd be great to do a performance-based film where Lee, in between the songs, was able to talk about the inspiration and the ideas and the emotions behind the songs. And that chimed and sung very well with Lee's idea about a film, because he really didn't want to make a film about himself. He really wanted to make a film about the people who inspired him. And he wrote a biography a few years ago called Boy from the Bush. I read that and realised it was full of fantastic anecdotes, great observations, really powerful sort of experiences that he'd had throughout his career, and how those experiences and those stories and those people informed his music. So it was a very straightforward, from that point then, it was a very straightforward, clear line about how to approach this film and how to approach Lee Kernaghan as a subject.
When it comes to the concert footage itself, so you shot 2 nights at the Tivoli in Brisbane, 6 cameras, you had a live audience as well of like Lee Kernaghan fans. What was that experience like? Because I know that you've delved into the music industry before and concert experiences, but to make a specific concert, for your documentary, that would have been something very unique to you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of concert films. Like I love The Last Waltz. I love Stop Making Sense. To me, they're kind of a genre that I've always really admired, and I've always wanted to kind of have a go at it, So I was very excited by the fact that we were able to get 2 nights in this venue, that I was able to get 6 cameras over 2 nights, and had the freedom and the liberty to start and stop the concert so we could reset and we could go for coverage. So I was able to kind of have a controlled environment, but ostensibly a live performance. So we had an audience there who were fantastic, and we tried to keep it very much an immediate, in the moment thing. But I also had the liberty to control it a bit. So for me, it was a new experience as a filmmaker. You don't really get those chances. I mean, in a way, we're trying to think of the last time and a film like this has been made in Australia, and the only last time I think I can remember there's a feature film concert film has been made was that film Australian Made, the film that was made in the 80s, and then before that there was the Slim Dusty movie, so there really hadn't been any precedents before that. And again, that kind of excited me, because I was thinking, wow, no one's really done this for a long time. So it was great fun to be able to sort of work on that kind of canvas.
You mentioned before the in-between parts of the songs where Lee is talking about the inspirations behind his music. The footage itself features Lee, both archive footage and current footage from going around Australia and just really kind of soaking in the country life. There's a big part of his music in his own life. The narration, though, is really interesting. Almost kind of sounds like poetry in some cases. Is that stuff that's taken from his biography? Is that something that's created anew for this film?
No, we wrote that especially for this film. It's sort of inspired by and influenced by the book. But we co-wrote that with, it was myself, it was Lee, and it was Lee's writing partner, Cole Buchanan, who's a great writer. And over a number of Zoom sessions, we sort of started to kind of write those little, they're kind of poems. Yeah. These sort of lyrical little observations that Lee has. And that was always my idea, and that was inspired by the book. I'll be able to, and when I wrote the script, I took sections out of the book. And then Lee and Cole saw that and went, I think we can make this better. I think we can make this more pointed. And we needed to be shorter as well and more succinct. So it was a fantastic collaborative process working with them, toing and froing all these sort of lyrical interludes. And then we sat down in a recording studio for a day with Lee, and he put them all down to tape.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by 80s Tees. 80s Tees is an online retailer of licensed t-shirts and pop culture gear from your favorite movies, TV shows, cartoons, video games, comic books, and musicians. Celebrate your inner 80s nerd and click on the link in the show notes below to get the raddest retro t-shirts delivered to your door. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Loot Crate. Founded in 2012, Loot Crate is the worldwide leader in fan subscription boxes. Loot Crate partners with industry leaders in entertainment, gaming, sports, and pop culture to deliver monthly themed crates, produce interactive experiences in digital content, and film original video productions. No matter what you geek out about, Loot Crate has a subscription box for you. To get your very own exclusive collectibles, apparel, and gear delivered to your door, be sure to click on the link in the show notes below. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you love. I'm not a country music fanatic, but I do like some of it. I like kind of like the classic ones like your Waylon Jennings and your Johnny Cash's, etc. And Slim Dusty's, of course. And what I think I really like about it is the lyrics. It's almost kind of like storytelling within song. Is that something that really spoke to you as well as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, that whole kind of storytelling aspect that country music has? Because you don't really think of any other music genres that have that. We maybe the exception of hip hop, they have it in their own kind of cultural way. But country music is on itself very much a storytelling driven music, don't you think?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I wasn't a country music fan at all, and it was only when I made the Slim Dusty film that I really kind of gained an appreciation of it and sort of had an epiphany. I'd sort of discounted it as too simplistic, but I realised, obviously, simplicity is the hardest thing to pull off, and it's the most artful form there is. You know, a simple song is the purest sort of artistic expression you can create as a songwriter. And country music songs are, in some cases, you know, some of the greatest songs ever written are country music songs, because they speak directly about a very specific subject, something very personal, very, very, very directly experienced by the writer, and therefore something that other people can immediately relate to. And that's very much Lee's music and Lee's songs. You know, he sings these very, very direct songs about rural experiences, about rural life that are both very specific and universal at the same time. And that's the magic of country music, I think. And that's the thing I think people don't appreciate or undervalue. And it's something that I've certainly over time have become attuned to and become passionate about. Like, you know, Lee's songs, I've been working on this film for 2 years, and I still listen to the songs. They've kind of grown on me. And then, you know, in the film, I've watched it a number of times and mixes and things like that. And I never tire of those performances, especially the live ones, because they're so sort of, again, vital and alive.
The movie very much speaks about Lee's relationship with country. I'm curious about your own relationship with Country Australia over the last several years, because you mentioned before working on the Slim Dusty film. Then you have also Going Country, the TV series. And even prior to that, I guess you can talk about how movies like Lucky Country and things like, let's just say, the Red Dog movies as well, that kind of go more into the rural aspects of Australia. Have you yourself kind of like, having experienced these things, had a greater appreciation for what the people in country rural Australia have gone through? Because I think, like, especially over the last several years with the bushfires and the floods and what like that, all of Australia, or especially us city folk, have much more respect and admiration for what the people in country Australia go through, especially considering the hard work that they have and making sure that we are all fed, etc., considering that they take care of all of our crops and all of our food as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely, Matt. It's been a really, the more I kind of travel, the more I see of this extraordinary place, the more humbled I become. And obviously, you know, there's rural life, there are the farmers, but there's also obviously, you know, the incredible Indigenous First Nations connections that are alive and have been there for millennia, that you start to sort of appreciate and see. And that's something that I'm really proud that we're able to also address in the film, in Lee's film. We were able to kind of cover that subject as well. So yeah, for me, it's been a process of discovery, and it's you know, it's such a cinematic country, you know, both visually and also in terms of its stories. There's still so many amazing stories to uncover and to tell. And, you know, that's what I love about music documentaries, is that, you know, music and song is such a great conduit to tell stories. And I sort of feel like country music, this is sort of the third in my trilogy of country music films or country music projects. So it's been a huge education for me. I've learned so much about history and about our diversity as a nation, as a rural nation. It's really quite rich and deep.
Last question. So the songs in Boy from the Bush, Lee's songs, are the soundtrack for many people in Australia. If you could put together a list of songs or even bands that will personify the soundtrack of Kriv Stenders, what bands or songs would that be? Because for myself, it would be kind of like a mix of like anything from Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run all the way to Alice in Chains' Dirt album, and then, maybe add some Metallica in between that as well. Very, very loud, very, very boisterous, but a little bit of a sensitive side to it as well. What about yourself, Kriv? What would be your soundtrack to your life?
Oh God, that's a doozy of a question. How many songs or bands do you want me to talk about? Like,
let's go for 3.
For 3. Oh God. Okay. Well, I know the first one is probably the Go-Betweens, because I made a film about them and they're part of my life. I met them when I was a kid. When I was a young teenager, they sort of changed my life. Virtually, literally changed my life. Oh God. The Beatles, I guess, because they're primal, they're fundamental. Listened to them when I was a child. My parents lived in Liverpool. They were huge Beatles fans. And I don't know, maybe ABBA again. ABBA's it's just part of my. Every time I listen to an ABBA song, I just start to cry because it just reminds me of my youth and that beautiful moment when those songs came into my world and they've never left. So yeah, that's probably my soundtrack.
Speaking of soundtracks alive, I just want to say, after I watched Slim and I went on a real long deep dive into Slim Dusty's music, to the point where I was playing it during drop-offs and pickups for my kids. And my kids now know the lyrics to the Slim Dusty songs.
They're great songs, aren't they?
They are great songs. They love it.
And it's such a rich, deep mind. I mean, that's when I was doing the same thing when I was making the film. I just had CDs on in the car the whole time. Yeah. And it kept on discovering gem after gem after gem. Oh my God, don't get me started. Three Rivers Hotel, I just love that song.
It's so many great songs, and great songs also found in Lee Kernaghan, Boy from the Bush, in Australian cinemas, July 28. I'd recommend everyone go check it out. Have your dancing shoes on as well. There's plenty of music in it. A lot of catchy tunes in there. Like yourself, Kriv, I wasn't really attuned to Lee's songs, and now I'm listening to quite a lot of them, especially like Texas 4385 as well. I reckon that's a pretty great song. And it's a really great documentary. And I thank you so much for your time today. And I know you're a busy man, so hopefully in the future we're going to talk again about another project, I'm sure, because you've always got lots of films going on, and that's a good thing, I think.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks a lot. Good on you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.